Hey guys, Shadowlink793 here with another deck profile for Yu-Gi-Oh! This time around I got a Banishing anti-meta deck. Okay, so I know this deck is really slow with Defissure and Macro being at 1, but this deck still works pretty well even with them at 1. You just gotta put a bit more effort into making it a little bit better. So here's what I came up with, and I've actually tested this against various meta decks today, like Shadal's. It does well against Shadal, Satellar Knights. It kind of doesn't do too well against clipboards, but if you get your setup right and you get your plays right, then clipboards have a hard time getting around this. But usually clipboards have ways around your shit most of the time, so be wary. It doesn't do as well against clipboards, but it does hurt Shadal's and it hurts Satellar Knights. So starting off with, we have two Necrofaces here, and it makes any banishing deck great. If he banishes it, that banish top 5 cards of yours in your opponent's deck. You can either use that to mill them out, or you can use a Necroface's effect to recycle your milled cards and power them up, boost them up, get a nice little beater there, 4 stars. And it also recycles everything you use, so you could reuse it again. So since everything, if you want most of your shit to be banished, it'll just keep getting recycled and recycled again. I've actually had a really long games with this because Necroface alone made the plays and made me recycle all my shit back. So really a good card, and I'm happy it's back at 2 for now. 2 Banisher of the Radiances, because you can never have enough banishing in this deck. This deck depends on banishing everything in yours and your opponent's deck. And you don't want them to go off, since a lot of cards go in the effects go in the graveyard. Shadal's and other things, Bujins. I know they're not really that meta, but Bujins get a lot of their effects in grave and hand, so it's helpful to have all this banishing power. 2 Banishers of Light, because his defense is good, and in case your Radiances aren't enough. 2 DD Warrior Ladies, because DD Warrior Ladies is a really good card against anything. It doesn't target, and it does and it hurts most cards. So their windows for Shadal's gone. Their constructs, that's not gonna do anything against them. Their Chicken Ninjas, not gonna do shit. So most Shadal fusions can't do anything against the DDs. So same thing with DD Warrior, it has to banish. DD Assailant, double DD Assailant. So the doubles of all the DD cards basically is what you want to do. 2 Doom Caliber Knights, because monster effects we don't want to happen, and it's a 1900 beat stick that negates any monster effect and it activates itself. But of course, if you activate your own monster effect, it won't do any good. So be worried not to do that. I'm pretty sure any smart Yu-Gi-Oh player would know that. But Doom Caliber is a really good card, and he makes for good negation power. People would argue for other methods, but I put Doom Cal because it's a monster, and it's a 1900 beater, and it has to negate the effects, so it's not optional. That can be a detriment to you because any effect your opponent could activate any effect and it would go off. But the thing is, since we have a lot of banishing power here, even Doom Cal does not need to hit the grave for it to activate its effect. So that's a plus. That's a plus for you as well. You're banishing their shit and you're negating what they're doing, so that's good. Fossil Dyna, of course, for negating their special summons, because the current meta always special summons their monsters. You know, slows most meta decks down. We want to slow them down because we don't want them to do shit. I find Soul Release is actually a really good card, because you want to banish their graveyard, and everything these days is in the graveyard, so you want them to not have fucking shit. So Soul Release is a good card. Normally I tech in 2, but I kind of wanted to see how it would work with this build, and it actually works better with 1 than I thought, because I have other ways of restricting their use of the graveyard, as you'll see later on. Well, of course, 1 Dark Hole, killing everything, very good. 1 Gold Sarcophagus, Gold Sarcophagus play with Necroface. Get Gold Sarc Necroface, effective Necroface, banish top 5 cards. And if you happen to banish another Necroface, banish another top 5 cards. So that's like 10 cards for your opponent that they can't afford to lose. And in 2 turns, you'll get your Necroface back, and then you can recycle them if you want and beef up your Necroface to run over what your opponent has. Good card. Pod Duality, Triple Pod Duality, because the deck is kind of slow. But sometimes its slowness can work to its detriment because this is a control deck. We want to be in control most of the time when we're playing this deck. 1 Defissure, we'll only have 1. 2 Gravekeeper Servants, because if you have the lock on with Banisher of Radiance and any Macrocosmos or Deep Fissure, your opponent can't declare an attack because they can't mill the card to their graveyard. Because Gravekeeper's Servant says you must mill the top card of your opponent must mill the top card of their deck to the graveyard to declare an attack. With the ruling on Deep Fissure, I believe it's they can't mill for their attack because they don't know whether it's going to be a monster, whether it's going to hit the graveyard to get banished. So I think they ruled it on that a while ago. I'm not sure. But the thing is, you can't attack with Deep Fissure and or Macro, and because the card Gravekeeper Servant said you must mill to your graveyard to declare an attack. But with Macrocosmos, Banisher of Radiance, and Banisher of Light and Deep Fissure, it's not going to hit the graveyard. So you want that. So you want that lock on as soon as possible to prevent your opponent from attacking you. Double Prohibition. Usually, when you Prohibition something, you Prohibition Mystical Space Typhoon, because that is the thing that gets rid of your back row, and in this deck, back row is very important to you, so you want to protect your back row as much as possible, especially your macro, your Deep Fissures, and your Vanity's Emptiness, which I'm going to explain in a bit. Dimensional Prison, because good card, banishes anything that attacks you. 2 Vanity's Emptiness. This is the money card of the deck, is Vanity's Emptiness. You can get everything else here pretty cheap, but the money cards here are the Vanity's Emptinesses. That's like $25, $30 a piece right now for secrets and even commons. You know, because mostly the lock is Macrocosmos, Gravekeeper Servant, Prohibition, and a Vanity's Emptiness. They can't attack, they can't special, and they can't use whatever card you prohibit on them. So it's pretty much a hard situation to get out of, since most decks rely on special summoning monsters to get out of situations these days. It also works with the Fossil Dyna too, so you get any of those out, you're pretty much guaranteed to slow them down for a while. And when you slow them down, it gets control, and they get frustrated at you, and it gives you ways to fight back. So really good combo there. 2 Dark Bribes, because, you know, always good to negate stuff. 1 Bottomless Trap Hole, always a good card. 2 Breakthrough Skills, because we wanted to prevent anything like a Black Rose, or anything that would nuke the field, or anything that would destroy a card on your side of the field, or bounce anything. And monster effects are always a thing that always fuck up this deck, so you want to get those out of the way fast. 2 Safe Zones, in case your Banishers get, you know, Dark Hold, Raigeki'd, destroyed. You want to protect them with Safe Zone. You know, just protect them so they continually banish your shit, because once your opponent sees that Banisher, and once they know what deck you're playing, they will want to get rid of that Banisher as soon as possible, because they know the things that it will do to destroy, that it will do to their deck. So they will get rid of that Banisher as soon as possible, and that is when you Safe Zone and protect him from getting destroyed, because you know the plays he's going to make all involve the graveyard, and he knows he can't do that with your Banishers in play. So it's a really good. So that's why you should always run at least 1 or 2 Safe Zones to protect your Banishers. But sometimes I can understand if it's a dead card, because I do get 2 Safe Zones in my hand most of the time, and it's kind of irritating when I don't need them. Last 2 cards for the main deck is Karma Cut. Oh, really good card. It really does a lot when they banishes everything with the same name on in the graveyard and field. So it also does a lot. It also does a lot for you when you have this combo: Banisher of the Radiance, Karma Cut is face down, and you have a Necroface in your hand. You want to banish, then banish top 5 when you banish your Necroface, because as cost, because it doesn't have to necessarily hit graveyard. So you can start Necroface as banishing as cost, banish top 5 cards, and then you're pretty much minusing your opponent on cards from their deck. So it's always good to use Necroface's effect to banish, and it's always used to use Karma Cut to banish other cards. At least I think so. Now for the side deck. I cited another Fossil Dyna in case my 1 Fossil Dyna wasn't enough to negate any special summoning. I put in 1 Grand Mole, because the Grand Mole is a really good card that really doesn't... you take no battle damage from any battles involving it. You can just keep bouncing your opponent's monsters back to their hand, and back to their hand to reuse it again. 2 King Tiger Wanghu's, just in case they have monsters that they want to summon with 1400 or less that are normal or special summon, which is a lot of monsters these days. So King Tiger actually sees some kind of use. I cited my Mystical Space Typhoons because this deck is all about control, and the MSTs are just kind of clogging my space here. 1 Book of Moon, you know, to for extra protection. 2 Necro Valleys, because in case I don't get enough power with the banishing power, and I need to move anything in their graveyard, I use Necro Valleys. It just says insurance, you know. One Torrential Tribute if you want to nuke the field. One Soul Drain, because you can only run one. Just in case all your banishing power is enough as well. One Compulse, and two Mistakes, in case they're using like something that requires them to search a lot. Not nearly as good as Thunder King Ryo, but I maybe hopefully they'll bring back TK back to at least 2, 3. Because I honestly don't think Thunder King really does too much, anything too badly to the current meta. But I know a lot of you would probably disagree. If you wanna post that in the comments, please be sure to let me know. So anyway, that's it for this build of my banishing deck. If you notice, there's no extra deck because I don't really use my extra deck that much for this deck because you really don't need it because you really shut down a lot of your own plays with special summoning too. And to be honest, you don't really need a special summon with this deck. All this is enough for most situations. So anyway, let me know in the comments what I could do to improve this deck, make it better. You know, give it the works, make it faster, make it more efficient to stop current meta decks. What I should side in, what I should side out. Anything I should change, anything at all. Just let me know in the comments, and I'll read them, and you know if I like them enough, I'll see what I can do, and maybe post another deck profile. Anyway, guys, this is Shadowlink793, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, bye.